to what we've already given up. It's like we're pacing around the obvious. Separate lives, different stories, 2 out of 4 of us are all fed up. Well, you and I play with fire, but don't say nothing, or we're both busted. We'll get what's coming after you. No, don't say nothing, or bon voyage to rendezvous. Trade fights for better views. We both need something new. Maybe we should just tell them.
Hello, hive-minded readers, and welcome to the Books and the Bees podcast. Just like bees play a crucial role in pollinating flowers and sustaining life, books pollinate minds and nurture the soul. We see the connection between the two, the delicate dance of ideas and stories that enrich our lives.
I'm Hailey.
And I'm Cody.
Welcome to our podcast.
Hello, Hailey.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. It's been a long week. How are you?
Long week. Yeah, I'm good. I'm actually, I was sick 2 weeks ago? And then today, I don't know if it's allergies or something, but my face is congested. And I just took cold medicine before we started, so I'm hoping I can survive.
Yeah, 'tis the season for allergies, truly.
It snowed here, though, so I'm kind of surprised that it's happening right now.
Huh.
We got I don't know, maybe an inch of snow over the last 2-3 days. So
Well, that's nice. I like the snow.
We do not like the snow.
Aw.
Yeah. I mean, I like to look at it, but the second I got to go out in it, I hate it. So not been fun for us.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. We had a 75-ish day on Monday.
Dang.
Yeah, and then thunderstorms all Monday night. And then yesterday was back to 50s, 60s, and then today was 50s, 60s, and it's just it's the wild weather out here. I don't know.
Weather has been crazy. I'm ready for spring. I want the birds chirping. I want, the nice weather before it gets super hot.
Yeah, not a fan of the heat either. I'm not a big summer girl.
Does it get hot where you are?
Yeah, and muggy as all hell.
Oh, no.
90% humidity, and it'll be 90 degrees or 80 degrees, and it'll have 80 to 90% humidity.
That's
so
horrific. Yeah. I would die.
Yeah, you walk outside and you can feel the heat.
No thanks.
Yeah, it almost takes your breath away sometimes. Yeah.
Humidity I hate. I mean, I don't hate humidity when it's cooler, but if it's over 80 degrees and humid, I hate it. So, just can't do it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of, especially from going from such dry heat to this. Yeah, it's something else.
Yeah.
Something else for sure.
It's quite the difference for sure. For those of us who did not grow up in humidity, like me.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't grow up in it either, but now that I'm living in it, I'm okay, this is not fun.
But it's good for your skin. I do feel like my skin's rejuvenated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, most definitely. And yeah, the skin, and no dry skin, no dry nails, no dry hair. It is nice.
And I think you can breathe better.
It's
I feel like my breathing is so much better in the humidity. But
yeah.
Okay. Should we jump into what we're reading?
Yeah, sure. What are you reading?
So I am still reading Faebound, which I think I just started it when we recorded last week. So a little bit, it's a little bit slower than I thought it was going to be. So I've been kind of taking it slowly, but I'm in the last, I don't know, hour of the book based off my e-reader. And so it's picking up. I have enjoyed it. I will say that I've definitely gotten into the story, and the main characters are really good. It is about basically this these two elves who are a part of this faction, and all the elves are fighting each other, and there's a huge war going on. And the main character, Yiren, she gets banished from her elf clan and has to go navigate being outside of the war and outside of her clan. And her sister ends up going with her, which is, I won't go any more in detail than that just because I don't want to do spoilers, but it's definitely really good. I have enjoyed the latter part of the book. It is definitely has some romance elements to it. I don't know if I'd classify it as a romantasy, but I guess
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because it's a fantasy book and it has romance elements, but romance is not the main driver of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I would classify that as a romantasy or not, but um, it has some romance to it. I'd probably put it, if I'm looking at the scale, I'd put it like a nectar nuzzle, not super
Mm-hmm.
intense, but there's definitely some on the page romance. So, but it's,
Okay.
not very present, like not very often, I would say that it's happening.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm excited to finish it.
Oh.
I'll probably finish it tonight after we finish the podcast because I'm that close. And I've had like 8 books come up on my whole list at the library. And so I
Mhm.
need to get cranking through those. But um,
Yeah. Yeah, 8 books is quite a bit.
yeah, luckily you can like delay the the hold on it. And so I've just been
Mhm.
pushing all my books back by a week, but I'm trying to get through them all so that I can get some new stuff on there. And so gotta continue on. But so far it's pretty good. Um, I also wanted to mention that I read a book, which also pushed Faebound back for me. I read a book called All That Moves Us, uh, a pediatrician neurosurgeon, his young patients, and their stories of grace and resilience. And the
Mm.
author is Jay Wellons, who is a pediatric neurosurgeon. And this book is a collection of stories that he talks about patients that he's worked on in his career. It was a really fascinating book. I read it for a book club that I'm a part of, where we're all volunteers for a cancer nonprofit, and we read a lot of cancer nonfiction books and also some fiction books, but not very often. And this was just a really great book. It's very short and very moving, I would say. I did tear up a couple times reading the book because, of course, hearing story of kids with a lot of tough neurological
Yeah.
diseases, including cancer and just a traumatic injury, was really um, moving and inspiring. My cat's screaming at me. But it was really a great book, and I would recommend it for all the nonfiction fans out there. uh,
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
yeah, it was good. I really liked it. Would definitely recommend it for sure.
Yeah.
What are you reading, Haley?
Yeah, so I just finished, because I believe I stated that I was starting Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey last episode. And I finished it. Really good book. It's funny, I was not expecting to uh, like a book about golf or a golf romance so much, but it was good. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely like an underdog story, kind of a comeback kid sort of situation.
Oh,
It was really, and I was like pleasantly surprised at the romance and the love story, I guess. But yeah, and if I had to put it on the honey scale, that was Beekeeper's Passion borderline honey frenzy. Honey
whoa,
frenzy.
really?
It was, yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, there was like, I'm not gonna spoil anything, obviously, but like there was a particular part in one of the chapters, pretty deep into the book, where there was a certain scene that I was like, oh, okay. As I was reading it, I was like, wow, okay, we're going there.
Oh boy.
But it was good. Yeah, but it was really good, and really well written. Nothing too like cringy or anything, which was really nice and refreshing. But yeah, and then I'm obviously still reading the Wolf Gone Wild, which is the first book in the Juliet Cross like witch series that I was reading. I haven't gotten too far in that one just because I was planning on like it being my nightly read, but because of like how crazy life has been and the weather and stuff, it's just been not able to really read it before bed. But I did also start Lore of the Wilds um, by Analeigh Sbrana, I believe is the author, and I hope that I'm pronouncing their name right. But yeah, it's really good. Actually found it because I went to Barnes and Noble this last weekend again, and I bought more books. But yeah, and yeah, it's really good. The cover art is absolutely beautiful, though. It's like got like a holographic lettering. Yeah, just really good. And I think I'm trying to see what like how far. I think I'm in like 4 chapters in so far. Just the main characters have really been introduced and kind of set the scene for like what the main character's kind of up against currently. But yeah, so far really good, really well written. Definitely recommend it for those who might be looking for a new book.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Was that one of the ones that you highlighted in the 2024 releases episode?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it
I
sounded
think it like
familiar.
yeah, just like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I think is when it dropped.
Uh-huh.
It's a fairly fresh book.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I found it at Target because Barnes and Noble let me down.
Oh, I don't go to Target very often, but I forget they have books there.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I'm always like, oh, groceries and clothes and stuff, but we always pass the book section, and I was like, I should look there, and then I found it, and I was like, yes.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so really good.
Yeah, there's one book that I'm really excited to start reading that I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast, but it's called That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming, which I'm going to start after Faebound. And I cannot wait to read this book because it sounds so fun. And
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard that the romance is pretty good. I think there's 3 that that have been published, or I think they're being republished by like a bigger publishing group. And so this one just came out last month, and then there's one coming out this month and one coming out in April, I think. So I'm excited to read those 3.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah,
I might be putting that on my DVR.
I'm definitely going to talk about it for sure next week in more detail. I'm
Hell yeah.
really excited for it.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
And I was going to mention too, I forgot to mention this earlier, but the Partner Plot came out a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Have you looked at it yet?
Yeah, so that was on my list when I was at Barnes and Noble, and they didn't have it at all, which was weird. And they didn't have Lore of the Wild. I don't know like what's up with that Barnes and Noble that I've been going to. But a lot of the books that I was looking for and have been looking for that were fairly new releases, but like you would think that they would have them like if places like Target has them. But yeah, they didn't have any. And then I looked for it also at Target and they also didn't have it. So I might just have to either order it online or order it off of, or maybe I might check one of the local bookstores here and see if maybe they have it. But yeah, I definitely need to get my hands on it for sure.
Love a good indie bookstore.
Yeah, for sure. But
Barnes and Noble is hit or miss for sure.
Yeah, and I really I don't know about you, but I really don't like the way that they organize their books. It seems very messy to me and like chaotic. And it I don't know. If I could rearrange that store, I totally would.
That's a good question. So ours actually remodeled recently. Like they rearranged it because they had a huge music section with like stacks and stacks of CDs that no one ever touched because people don't buy CDs anymore. So they cut the CD section down and kind of rearranged. And I like it better now, but I still think it's a little weird, I would say. Yeah. But who are we to judge the Barnes and Noble people? Actually, we can judge them. I
I
don't
was
know
gonna
who
say,
runs Barnes and Noble. Could be.
dear Mr. Barnes and Noble, let me rearrange your store, please. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. They're, I just miss the border days. I know we talked about it on the podcast before, but that was the
Yeah,
bookstore that I loved. The
same.
big bookstore.
It seemed like it just made sense.
Yeah.
Anytime I walked in there, I always knew where I could go. I always knew how to look for the books in there. Everything always like was in order on the shelves. That's the other thing that really drives me nuts is when I'm in Barnes and Noble is like their shelves make little to no sense. And a lot of the times they have like blank spots or like shelves that are just completely cleared out.
Yeah.
And it's just it's so frustrating. Drives me nuts.
The one that we have, I don't think it happens anywhere else in the store, but there's the sci-fi fantasy section. It has one shelf
Mm-hmm.
where it's one like side of their like longer shelves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's organized alphabetically, but there's not all the authors in that section organized in that shelf. And then you wrap around to the other part of the sci-fi fantasy and it starts over and has
Yeah.
the whole section. And to me, that doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know why they do that.
Yeah. Well, and see ours, and I say ours like I've been going there forever, but I haven't. The one that I go to is like I feel like sometimes it's like certain sections will make sense, but then there'll be like authors missing and they'll be like on an end table or like in one of their special little like display tables. And it's
Yeah.
like, stop doing that because when I'm looking for something alphabetically, I'm not always going to go to one of the tables or display shelves to find something. Like if it's in, and the display shelves are never in the same section.
No, they're not.
Like they're off to the side in a different section and you're like, well, I thought that I'm in romance, like shouldn't I find a romance book in romance? No, it's like over in the sci-fi or in the like I don't know, one of the like weird like new and upcoming titles or whatever, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it drives me nuts.
That happened to me with Fourth Wing, I think, and I ended up not buying it. I ended up just getting it at an ebook. I mean, I paid for the ebook, so I did buy it, but not physically.
Right.
And I was looking for it in the sci-fi fantasy, and they weren't there. And I thought, oh, they just must be out because it's super popular. And I ended up walking around, and there was a section where, like, right by the Starbucks, which is in ours, it's like smack dab in the middle of the store, and it was on one of the tables that kind of circle the Starbucks, and it was like a huge display thing, and it had Iron Flame on the other side of it because they were both out at the same time. And I was like, why is this not in the sci-fi section or the fantasy section where people are going to be looking for it? Because it's a fantasy book, so it should be there. But no, it's annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. Yeah. Ours is, it's sad.
Yeah, it is. It is. Cool. Do you have any beekeeping that you want to mention, Hailey?
No, just, make sure to, if you're listening, to check out our Instagram at Books and the Bees Pod. Make sure to give us a follow and check it out.
Yeah, check it out. And I did want to mention too that last week we hit 50 followers on Instagram, which is great. And this week we actually, just this morning, we hit 100 total downloads on our podcast. Yeah.
That's so cool.
So I thought I'd mention it because that's feel like it's a really big milestone. And this one hasn't dropped yet, so we're only 7 episodes in. And we got 100 downloads, so I feel like it's a great start.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what a download is, but that's really cool. I'm assuming that's like 100 listens or something, which is really awesome.
It's 100 people who download the podcast, or 100 downloads of each episode combined, I guess. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Which is the best way to support us at the moment. So if you download our podcast, that's what people look at when, like, if we ever look at ads or something, it's all about how many downloads you get. So if you like our podcast, please download it on every device you own and every podcast app you have so that we can boost our numbers up.
Really boost our numbers, please. Thanks.
Or, tell your friends that we have a podcast and we want real listeners, not just a bunch of people that download 100 times. So, but we appreciate all the people listening.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you are downloading that, thank you. Kudos to you, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. I also wanted to mention, because I feel like, I don't remember if we brought it up last week, but we announced it, I think 2 episodes ago, that we decided to do a book club read, a co-read for April, which is just a month away, about 3 weeks away as you're listening to this podcast. We're going to read Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon, the very first book in the, I think it's called the Ice Planet Barbarian series. And I bought it already. I read the first chapter. It feels like it's going to be an interesting book, so I'm very excited to read it. I've been waiting until April to like start diving into it, but I think it's gonna be really fun, so I'm excited to read it.
Yeah, I that was one of the books that I bought
Hmm.
when I just last weekend when I went to get more books, and that was on the list, and I found it and I bought it. It's a little roughed up for some bizarre reason, but
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it's like got like a tear on it, and I was like, okay, whatever.
Oh.
But it is what it is. But I'm really excited to get into it, and I am so excited to start it, and I just have to keep it away so I don't touch it and read it.
I know. Luckily, that's a good time to have all my library books pull up, because I won't be tempted to read it until those kind of tighten up a little bit. But I'm kind of excited to see the series. Like, I've heard good things about the whole series, so
Same.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Okay. Well, today our topic of conversation is going to be, we're going to discuss our favorite women authors, because March is Women's History Month. And so we thought it'd be a
Yay.
great time to highlight all the amazing women authors out there. Obviously, we can't list every single woman author, because that
Yeah.
would take forever, but
This podcast would be 5,000 years long.
but we each pulled 3, I think, right? And
Yep.
we're going to discuss our favorite 3. Obviously, this isn't the only 3 women authors that we both read, but we pulled our top 3.
Let me tell you, it was very hard for me to have to narrow this down to 3. I was like, this is impossible. I have too many.
Yeah, we were talking right before we started that we both read primarily women authors, and I think you, Hailey, you read a lot. Like, your majority is much higher
Yeah.
percentage-wise women than mine is, but
Yeah.
yeah, which is good. I think it's good to have primarily women authors in your reading list,
Mhm.
because it's been male dominated for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah. And I feel like the reader industry is majority women, which is really
Mhm.
nice, because you don't see that very often. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that in one of our episodes, I think I listed something about statistics of women authors, but um yeah, it just kind of makes sense that it's well, I say that as a woman myself, but like I feel like it kind of makes sense when like women just be reading, women be out here, we
Yeah.
be reading.
Yeah. And not just romance, too. A lot of,
Yeah.
every genre. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Right.
So we each picked 3 authors, and we have some definite diversity as far as genre and a bunch of other stuff. Hailey, do you want to start with your first author?
Yeah. I will go with mine. So my first author that I picked, and like I said before, this is a very hard list to narrow down. I mean, I was thinking about like all the like women authors that I've read recently, and then like ones that I've read in my past, and like ones that were influential um, to me, like in my adolescence. But this particular author is one that I read. I'm gonna say like tween age, like between like 12 and like 14 or so age range. I believe that the series that I'm going to mention that they are the author of um, is considered a YA, but it's PC Cast, and I believe so. The Mark series that I read um, that introduced me to this author, it was PC Cast and Kristen Cast. But yeah, so I just kind of looked at like PC Cast's bio. Obviously, like she has an Instagram, she has a little about page, has a website, that sort of thing. So I guess if you're interested in her works, feel free to go check her out. But yeah, PC was born in the Midwest, which is kind of crazy. apparently she was between Illinois and Oklahoma and landed in, I believe it said that she ended up landing in like Oregon or something. Yeah, Oregon,
Oh.
which is interesting because like I'm from the Pacific Northwest and then I landed in the Midwest, and just funny how that kind of parallel happened. But yeah, as I stated before, so her books, the Mark series that I was introduced to her with, are were kind of like the beginning stages of me being introduced to the like paranormal type romance genre that I really love so like much. And I believe that I've also mentioned in maybe our first episode, I can't remember, but this particular series was one that I also read with my grandma, which might
Hmm.
sound strange to the normal person, but my grandma was a avid reader, and she was a very spiritual woman and very like into the paranormal type thing and witches and that sort of thing, vampires, etc. So it wasn't necessarily totally ridiculous that she was like, hey, I'm gonna read these too because it sounds interesting. But yeah, and they were fantastic books from what I remember. um, and yeah, and I guess so the little blurb also that PC cast, it says, after high school she joined the United States Air Force and began public speaking and writing. After her tour in the USAF, she taught high school for 15 years before retiring to write full-time, which is really awesome.
Wow.
PC is a number one New York Times and number one USA Today best-selling author, and a member of the Oklahoma Writers Hall of Fame, which is also really cool. Her novels have been awarded the prestigious Oklahoma Book Award, the YALSA Quick Pick for Reluctant Readers Romantic Times Reviewer's Choice Award, the Prism Holt Medallion, um, Daphne du Maurier Bookseller's Best, and the Laurel Wreath. PC is an experienced teacher and talented speaker. Lives in Oregon and apparently has a Maine Coon and a bunch of horses, and dogs, which I'm like, you're living your best life, okay?
Dang.
If
Man.
there's anyone that I want to grow up to be, it's her, because that sounds like a cool life.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah, I
She
know,
sounds like she's living her best life for sure.
her best life.
Man, just writing books and riding horses and hanging out with her
Yeah,
dogs. That sounds fantastic.
hell yeah, sign me up.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like I read the first book when I was in high school,
hmm
but it was quite a big series, wasn't it?
Yeah, I actually think that like I didn't end up ever actually finishing the series because by the time that like I was like aging up, the like series wasn't coming out as much.
Mm,
Not as much, but you know what I mean? Like it was like it hadn't finished is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, outgrew the series
So,
basically.
yeah, and like I'm kind of interested to like go back and see, like maybe read like finish it or read the rest of them. Um but yeah, it looks like the Marked House of Night series, there's 9, 10. Oh my gosh,
Wow,
there's like 12 books. Holy moly.
dang,
Wow. Yeah, what a series.
what a series! That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah,
But yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So what's your first author, Cody?
Yeah, so my first author is one that I've mentioned on the podcast briefly with maybe a slight bit of detail, but haven't really dived into her work just because it hasn't quite come up with our topics yet. But my first author is Rebecca F. Kuang, who is probably my favorite author right now. I love everything she's written. She is a fantastic fiction writer, kind of in like her first trilogy, which is called the Poppy War trilogy, and the first book is called the Poppy War. It's kind of like a YA dark fantasy, and those three books are in that same world. And then the book that I first read by her was called Babel, and it totally blew me away. It's a very much dark academic book about this kid he's Chinese, and he ends up getting taken by an Englishman to be raised in the UK, and goes to this school where they have this really interesting magic system based off of translating works and using silver. And it was such a good book. I just absolutely loved it. Could not get enough of it. And then her latest book is called Yellowface, which came out in 2023. Also a tremendous book about this very successful Asian author who writes predominantly about books set in Asia or about Asian history, is best friends with the main character, who is a white woman author, who is not very successful, had, I think, one book published and was very, not well received and didn't get a lot of attention. And the very successful author, she ends up dying from a freak accident, and her friend, the white woman author, decides to take her manuscript and publish it under her name, and ends up becoming a bestseller, and she gets all the fame that she wants. And it's such a good book. I just cannot talk enough about Yellowface, and I've just really enjoyed R.F. Kuang's work. She is just a tremendous author. She makes phenomenal characters, and has just been a really, really great writer over the last few years. And she's also very much prolific in her non-author life too. She's currently getting a PhD from Yale University, and I think it's Chinese literature. She has a few graduate degrees from Magdalen College and Cambridge. And so she's very much successful, very much an academic. And I've just really, really enjoyed her work. And I cannot wait for her next book, which I think is supposed to come out in January of next year. I don't even know what it's about, but I just can't wait to read it, because I know I'm going to love it. Yeah, her books are great.
I heard a lot of good things about Yellowface when it came out, and that it was very good. So
yeah, it was one of those instant buys for me. I think I pre-ordered it on my e-reader, got it in, and I think I had it finished within like 2 days of its release. That's what I do with her books now, is I just pre-order them and start them right when I get them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Hailey, what's your next author?
Yeah, so my next author is Ali Hazelwood, and I know that I've talked about her quite a bit on this podcast, and especially in the last few episodes. I did just recently finish one of her newer books that just released, Bride, and then what's funny is when I was at Barnes & Noble, they had like a whole like table for with all of her books, which I thought was really cool, and I was so tempted to get one of her other newer releases, Checkmate. I didn't because I was trying to, keep my book count to below like 5. But next time that I go, or if I see it again after reading the few books that I have to get through, I'll probably put Checkmate on there, because I have read her other books, Stuck With You, Below Zero, the Love Theoretically, Love on the Brain, Under One. I mean, I've read most of her books except for like 2. I haven't read Checkmate, and I haven't read Not in Love or Loathe to Love You. I've read all those books. Yeah, so really just 2 of her books I haven't read yet, and I really enjoy her writing style. But she is apparently so she writes a lot of her main characters in her books are typically like women in STEM, and apparently she has a PhD in neuroscience, and she
really?
was a professor. Yeah, it was
Dang.
really cool. When I know, like, that, to me, that's really awesome. Not that I really consider myself a woman in STEM, but like technically I do have a bachelor's degree in science, sociology, but it's still science.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, so to see, I don't know, just like a fellow academic who not only has a degree in a wonderful profession, but she also is a writer. Like that's so cool to me. Um, but yeah, and there wasn't really a lot in her like bio. It seems like I tried looking up like Goodreads and like her own website and Instagram, that sort of thing. And I do follow her on Instagram. But yeah, she seems like she's, at least from what I can, uh, what I perceive from her Instagram, she really hypes up other authors. Um, she does a lot of like, go check out this book sort of thing. So I think that's really cool and admirable as a reader. And yeah, I definitely recommend her books. The Love Hypothesis, and I can't remember which one it was that I read that I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Love on the Brain. That one was one of the ones that I was like, I think that was the first one that I read. And it was one of those books where I like started reading it and then I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to read this. And then I flew through it and then I was like, does she have other books available? And can I read them immediately? And then I literally read them like one after the other. They were just that good and that well written. And like I said, all of the like main characters in her books seem to be um, women who have like a pretty decent brain on them, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really refreshing, like reading a book about a woman who like knows her shit. You know what I mean? Like I just love. There's something about that to me that really speaks to me, is like women just like not being like the meek like damsel in distress that like I feel like romance tends to have. Now,
Yeah.
I don't say that about all romance. Obviously, there's a plethora of scenarios out there, but there is that one like trope that I feel like is pretty popular of like the whole like woe is me woman, and the characters in her book are not that. So they're badass, which I admire. So yeah.
Yeah. I haven't read any of hers yet. I know that we've brought it up before. I think it Love on the Brain, where what the main character is a PhD student.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I know I was like, a lot of people recommended that book to me and I just never got around to it, which I really want to. I did buy Bride
Mm.
for my wife. We talked about it on the pod when I think it was our 2024 releases too, that we brought it up.
Yeah.
And I think she's going to like it a lot. And so I bought it
Yeah.
for her when I went away this last week or whatever it was. And so I'm excited to hear what she says about it. I might give it a try. I think it's interesting, but I think it's definitely up my wife's alley more than it is mine. But she sounds like a very prolific author, and I love anybody who writes about science. So I can't
Yeah.
complain about that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So what's your next author?
So my next author is one of my favorite science fiction authors, and her name is Becky Chambers. She's primarily a writer. She has written a series called the Wayfarer series, and the first book is called The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which when I read this book, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I read it in maybe one sitting, maybe like over 24 hours, really, really fast. Absolutely loved the book. It's basically about this kind of like this rundown spaceship that they travel around trying to get money on different things. And they end up getting this really weird job to transport someone to this planet that no one ever visits. And the characters are just so lovable and fun to hear about. It's very much a found family story where the whole cast or crew of the spaceship get along really well and become best friends, and there's a little bit of a romance interest that is very very nice. And I just really like the book. Turned into it was originally a trilogy and now it's 4 books. And the books are A Closed and Common Orbit, Record of a Spaceborne Few, and The Galaxy and the Ground Within. And they're not a traditional series where you would say they're like episodic, but they're kind of like maybe spin-offs of each other is a better way to describe them. And so you don't have to necessarily read them in the order that they were published in, but they are related, and there are characters that kind of pop in and out of the 4 books. And I really love her writing because I feel like I'm at home when I'm reading her books. They're just so nice and cozy, and the writing is just so soft and wonderful to read. And so Becky Chambers is one of those other authors that I pretty much read everything she's written. She has a couple of novellas out that I haven't read. There's one called To Be Taught, which I have not read. To Be Taught If Fortunate. I haven't read that one. But she just recently came out with a novella series called the Monk and Robot series. And the first one of that is called Psalm for the Wild Built. And that is about this person who becomes a tea monk and travels around the world, or, his little, area, making tea for people to help them like relax and talk. And it's such a fun book. It sounds like a great job. I would love to travel around and just make tea for people. And he ends up meeting a robot who decides to come from this area where robots had been sequestered away. And it's kind of following their adventure. And the sequel's called Prayer for the Crown Shy, which is just another book in that same world. And yeah, just the same vibe, very fun book to read, very chill. You feel like you're drinking a cup of tea when you're reading the book. And I've just really enjoyed her work. And she got started actually on a GoFundMe. To publish The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, she did like a Kickstarter campaign or a GoFundMe campaign to get it off the ground. And everybody loved it so much that she ended up making a career out of it. And I've always loved her work, and I'm happy to be able to talk about her today.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's awesome when like the community like comes together like that, and they, build up, and then they like, turn out to be, then it gives someone the ability to do what they love and to create like awesome works for everyone else. Everyone else gets to enjoy, so it's almost like a win-win situation.
It is. Yeah. I think everybody who donated to the Kickstarter did a great job investing their money, because it was a good decision for everybody. Yeah
that's really cool. That's awesome.
Hailey, what's your last author? Are we on the last authors already?
Yeah. I know, right? So my last author, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing the last name wrong, but it's Chloe Liese, I think. I'm pretty sure. And I do follow her on Instagram as well. She does have an Instagram, so make sure to check her out. But her little bio said that it's just Chloe writes romances reflecting her belief that everyone deserves a love story. Her stories pack a punch of heat, heart, and humor, and often feature characters who are neurodivergent like herself. When not dreaming up her next book, Chloe spends her time wandering in nature, playing soccer, and most happily at home with her family and mischievous cats. The reason why I picked Chloe, obviously besides that I love her books, but was also because of her putting neurodivergent individuals in characters in her books. There's always like, I feel like it's really nice when authors put something like so relatable like that. And especially that like kind of representation that you may not always find in media in general, in entertainment, that sort of thing. And she like openly says it. Like, it's not like she's like beating around the bush sort of characters where they're like, oh, could they be? No, she's like, no, this person has like such and such thing or whatever, that sort of thing. But yeah, and I think that her books are really well written. I believe at least the ones that I've read are sports romances. So that's cool. Or there's like sport aspects in those books. I believe one of the ones that I read had to do with soccer, and it was really good. And she writes. Let me look up the books real quick. She wrote, I believe she has one series that's called like the Bergman Brothers or the Bergman Brothers, and that was, I read 2 of those books. out of that like series. It's a fairly big series. I believe that there was like maybe I think she just had a book come out too, and I'm thinking that it says 6 books. So let me. Yeah, so she has the Wilmot Sisters, which is 2 books, and the Bergman Brothers, which is 7 books, and one just came out, I believe, or it's about to come out. Let me. Yeah, it's out for pre-order, and it's called Only in Forever. So I definitely recommend maybe checking that one out. If like that sounds like something that like you're interested in, and yeah, it's really good. Or well, her books are really good, I should say. I haven't read that book yet, but her books are really good. I really like the way she writes, and I definitely recommend her as an author.
Sounds like she has quite a bit of a backlist too, like quite a few
Yeah,
books out there.
yeah, she has a bunch, and like I definitely like recommend them. And I feel like she's not a very like well-known author. At least like I don't see a lot of people like talking about her books in like Instagram or like book talk and stuff. So I definitely recommend checking her out because she deserves the
Yeah.
to be checked out. So
Yeah,
her
she's a
books.
new author for me. I've never heard of her before, so I'm
Yeah,
excited to check her out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yay.
yeah. What's your last author?
Yeah. So my last author is another author that we've mentioned on the podcast before, and I'm pretty sure it was the book ban um, podcast episode,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Juno Dawson, who's an English author of young adult fiction and nonfiction. Her notable works include This Book is Gay, which is the one that we talked about on the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
Mind Your Head, Margot and Me, The Gender Games, Clean, Meat Market, and the series Her Majesty's Royal Coven. And the second book for that series is called The Shadow Cabinet. And I've been a fan of Juno since I first read, I think the first book I read from her was Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which is about a witch coven in the UK. And there's a transgender child who's transitioning into being a woman, and she wants to join the coven, and there's some backlash about that, and that's kind of the main crux of the first book, and the sequel kind of deals with parameters around that. Juno Dawson did transition to female a few years ago, and she wrote This Book is Gay before she transitioned, and then she updated it and wrote it after she transitioned. And I read the version that was updated after she had transitioned, and it was really great. Gave a lot of advice for kids on navigating being a part of the LGBTQ community, and how to talk to your parents about how to come out to your parents or come out to your family, how to do a lot of things like that. It's a really, really great book, and I always recommend it to parents of kids, and for individuals who who are within that space. Just a great book, and unfortunately gets banned all the time for stupid reasons, and so always love to hype it up as well. And Juno, actually, she started as an educator too. She was a educator at Bingley Grammar School, and so another educator who then left to become a full-time author, which is really cool. I feel like that happens a lot, though. I feel like I've heard of a few authors who started off as teachers, and so I wonder what the like parallel is with it. Maybe teachers just make good authors or something. I don't know. But yeah, she's just, I think she's just a really great author. I really recommend her series, Her Majesty's Royal Coven. It's very popular. I think the third book is going to come out next year. I haven't read any of her other books. I actually didn't realize she had this big of a backlist before. I've never heard of any of the other books until I was doing research on her for this, and really excited to check them out because I've really been enjoying her work. And I think trans women have a hard time. I mean, obviously they have a hard time. I'm not the best person to talk about why they have struggles, but it's Women's History Month, and trans women are women, and so I wanted to make sure there was representation for trans women on Women's History Month, because I feel like there's a lot of lists out there that don't have trans women in their list for Women's History Month, and I think that should be fixed, especially with all the hate from some authors out there who don't want to justify trans women, and so it's good to have the representation in spaces like this.
Yes, I agree.
And she's a fantastic author, so I recommend checking out her books if you're into the kind of like a modern urban fantasy, I think is how I would describe it. And then her nonfiction works are really well written too.
Yeah, that the Her Majesty's Royal Coven sounds really, really good, and I might be putting that on my TBR list.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised I didn't bring it up to you before, because I do think I was thinking that you would really like it, but
yeah,
I guess we've never talked about it.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good book, and I definitely, I'll definitely be checking that out, because
it's really good. It's a really good book. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Cool. Well, those are the authors that we picked out. Of course, there are so many other amazing women authors out there, and so we hope that you are out there recognizing your favorite women authors. If you would like to email us a list of your favorite women authors, please feel free to do so. We have our email is booksandbeespod@gmail.com. Our Instagram is @booksandthebeespod if you want to share your favorite women authors on there as well. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, leave us a comment or message us or whatever. Like, let us know who you enjoy reading.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything else you want to mention, Hailey, before we wrap it up?
No.
Okay, great. Well, we mentioned the email and Instagram, so I won't repeat that. If you would love to give us a review on whatever podcast app you're using, we would greatly appreciate it, because that does help us get more listeners, and we're always looking to grow the hive mind. I have not gotten an update on Apple Podcasts yet. I think they're ghosting me. Their customer support is not very supporting, I would say, but we're hopefully going to get there at some point. So
we'll write them a strongly worded letter.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. And as always, we want to give a thank you to the American Indie for their song Rendezvous, which is our intro and outro for the show. Great song. Love it. Go check them out on Spotify. Their Spotify link is in the show notes, as always. And our email and our Instagram is also in the show notes. All the books and authors that we mentioned on this episode are also in the show notes. So if you're driving in the car right now, please do not get in a wreck trying to write the authors' names down. We will make sure they're in the show notes so that you can see them later. Okay.
All right. Well, with that, we hope you enjoyed this literary journey as much as we did. If you're buzzing with this excitement, don't forget to subscribe, email us, and leave a Hive 5-worthy review on your podcast listening app. Until next time, happy reading, and may your shelves be filled with tales as enchanting as a blooming garden. Keep the buzz alive, and we'll catch you in the next chapter. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.